Hey everyone, Spot of Nerd here with a beautiful, fantastic, positive episode where, we're going to talk about, I think, one of the greatest franchises. And I say that a lot because it is from the past. You'll notice whenever there are movies that are out now, whether they're new, whether they're old, but have been a part of something since... Gosh, if you think about it, the very first one of these actually came out in 1996. So literally over 20 years ago. They still hold true to their original story, and they also hold true to no bullshit. So let's talk about the latest from Mr. Cruise himself. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So right out of the gate, this movie is 4 cups of tea out of 4 cups of tea from yours truly, Spot of Nerd. Again, absolutely fantastic. This Mission Impossible film kills every level possible. Action sequences, direction, character development, the continuation of the franchise. Again, probably there will be spoilers, so let's get that out of the way real quick too. You have been warned right here and now. The movie has come out earlier than normal. It's on a Wednesday versus a Friday. So if you haven't seen it, if you don't want to know, odds are I'm going to be spoiling some of this film. If you give a crap, you might want to pause, come back to this later after you've seen it. If you don't care, just continue watching, which is obviously greatly appreciated. So, long story short, kind of before we go into the movie, I would very much recommend that you go and watch some of the other Mission Impossible films. The first ones that come to my mind that really, so you can understand the story, definitely go back and watch number 1. Go back and watch, I would probably even recommend 4, 5, and 6, because this is number 7. This is part 1 of, I don't even know how many, so I'm assuming part 1 of 2, so we'll get a number 8, Lord knows where in the future, especially now that this strike is about to take place. So things are going to get very, very interesting in Hollywood. Now, we're going to talk more about that in another episode, probably more on a podcast side of things, but because I just want to talk about this new Mission Impossible film. It really, like I said, it knocks it out of the park on every scale. Full transparency. Let's get the bad out of the way, and then we'll go into the good. Was it the best Mission Impossible film? No. And that's, again, it's not saying that it's a bad film, but what I am saying is, are there better Mission Impossible films? Absolutely. And maybe one day we will actually do an entire episode about that. Bibbidi bobbidi boop, you know my usual spiel. But I really do I have a very I don't know the words. I really hold dear to my heart the very first Mission Impossible film. I thought that was brilliant. The helicopter sequence, the overall story, the feeling that matched it with the original series, I really thought was incredible. And putting Tom Cruise as the lead, I mean, you can't go wrong with him. He really does deliver on every scale. It's fucking amazing. So, was it the best? No. Was it still one of the better ones? Yes. And the reason for that, again, is the overall story arc, because it is bringing, just like the Fast and the Furious franchise, it is bringing 6 other films to fruition to continue a story about what they started in episode series 1, movie 1, if you get my drift. So, the only other negative piece to it, and you're going to know this right out of the gate when you start watching it, this movie could have definitely been shorter. This is a very long film, believe it or not. It's about 2.5 hours. And quite frankly, there are scenes in this film where there's a lot of conversation. There's a lot of... They're trying to... I guess the best way I can describe it, they're trying to deliver this really deep, dark message. Again, warning, full transparency on the spoiler alert. The movie is around artificial intelligence and how, you know, mankind or the Russians have created this artificial intelligence super weapon. Of course, it develops, what is it? What do they call it? There's a word for it when AI becomes sentient. Basically, AI figures out that it's AI and it becomes its own self, and they call it the entity. And so the bottom line is that when they try to get through these conversations about explaining how to destroy it or how to create it or how to make it, blah, 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 it does get a little bit long. And I do mean long in respects to you're kind of scratching your head going like, okay, we get it. You can move on now. You're still talking. You can get it. It's like that kid that just is trying to tell you a story, and then you have to remind yourself of Billy Madison.
Today, Junior?
And it's fucking hilarious, but you kind of get my drift in that. And that would probably be the only thing I would say is the negative piece to it. Sure, you could nitpick that some of the CGI wasn't the best, but again, there's so little CGI, which again, you've got to give so much credit because a lot of it, I believe Tom Cruise is taking a lot more ownership in the executive producer role type stuff. Don't quote me on that, but I really do think he's getting more involved in the overall making of the films. And yes, was there CGI? But there's not enough for you to really care about. The majority of these stunts, of these sequences, whether it's the cars, the train, it's real. Even the train, if you go and watch, there's a lot of those behind the scenes things. The train sequence at the end where it goes over the bridge, it's real. They took a train and they fucking threw it over a bridge. It's fucking incredible. The bike sequence where he's jumping over the cliff. I swear to God, if you haven't heard about this, go look it up. He actually filmed that as a very first scene in this movie, just in case he died. How fucking more badass of an action superstar celebrity hero can you ask for than Tom Cruise? Basically, shooting the first scene, he does not use stunt doubles. He does it all himself. But because if he died, they didn't want to waste anybody's time or money finishing the film. I shit you not, that is literally why they did it first. It's fucking badass. You cannot deny how fucking badass that is, whether you're a Tom Cruise fan or not. Bad fucking ass. So, again, kind of going more the cliff notes on the story. There's this weapon, which is artificial intelligence. They're gonna try. This is where I love how they kind of just almost dabble. We always talk about on this channel, we always talk about as conservatives, as conspiracy theorists, the world elites, the Illuminatis of the world, whoever is running things, you know they want one super state to control everybody and everything. And the outcome of that is war. That's what they want. And it's I love how they kind of dab on that a little bit throughout the film, especially when they're giving it to the governments of the world. They want the governments gone. They want the conspiracy theories gone. They want the conservatives gone, because that way they can control and rule over everybody. It's not a case of, they said with the World War, it's not going to be a world war of nukes. It's going to be a world war of missiles and bullets. And it's basically going to be a fight over resources. So again, they keep the bullshit out. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a minute, you just talked about getting rid of conservatives. No. That's the whole point. The bad guys want to get rid of them. The Tom Cruises, aka the good guys, Ethan Hunt and his team, want to stop this AI from creating that so that free speech and freeness can reign. Thank you, Tom Cruise, because you are not shoving woke bullshit down our throats in your action films. it's incredible the way that the story lines up beautifully without having to give us that crap. So again, that is why I just fucking love these films, because they can still give us great storytelling without giving us bullshit. You know how I am. That's all I'll say about that. So other than that, I mean, again, just some of the positives of the film as I think about it was, you know, there is a sequence in the Dubai airport where they're kind of trying to dub Tom Cruise's face over somebody else. Again, fantastic sequence when you've got the US government trying to capture Ethan. You've got the bad guys trying to capture Ethan. But Ethan has his team of, you know, they're super great hacker people, technology people. So they dub his face on somebody else, which leads them on a trail of breadcrumbs to try and capture him. All the while, Ethan Hunt is trying to capture this key so that he can end the AI. And it's just fantastic sequence. Very Mission Impossible-esque with a lot of gizmos and gadgets. I love that type of stuff. You can look back at some of my older episodes. That is what I've been asking for in these newer films. We need more spy shit, and they did deliver on that. So again, another piece I was very, very grateful to see and watch. Because it led also too into the car sequence, the chase sequence. You can see it in the trailer. Maybe I'll play a little bit over this video, but it's just so well thought out about not only from the driving to the stunts. What you see again is real. A lot of that is fucking real, which is crazy. It even has, which I was blown away, I didn't even realize, the main female in this movie is Peggy Carter. She is, of course, the love interest of Captain America. But more importantly, we have Star-Lord's sister. Oh my god, I'm spacing on her name. You know who I'm talking about. Basically, who plays, Tentacle Lady. Wow. I am ashamed of being a nerd right now. So, throw it in the comments. Tell me your thoughts. I mean, if anything, I would love to know. Mantis! I win. Take it back. Can't hate me. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. You're still gonna hate me in the comments and messages, so. But Mantis is in this film. And she's fucking she's a fucking murderous. Do not mess with her. She is incredible. The stunts that she performs, the kick-assness that she is. Wow. Blown away. Mantis, I would do terrible things to just be able to take you on a date. If you ever see this. But, so many great characters. Such great delivery on everything. So, but again, just to finish my thought on the car sequence, the chase sequence, it is so well done. I would love to learn, and I mean, I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I would love to learn how they put all of this together. You know, they're on the streets of Rome. There's a tiny little yellow car. There's the Humvee. There's the police trying to chase them, but even there's those there's the comedy piece. 1 minute he's driving, the next minute she's driving, and they're just, the reactions to it are, it's hard to describe, but just go and watch it because it's fucking hilarious. At the same time of, oh shit, we're gonna die, it's okay, we're good, keep driving, you know, blah, 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 blah. And even when he escapes, he has to take the steering wheel off, and he's walking around the streets of Rome holding the steering wheel because that's the only way he could escape a fiery death. It's fucking great. So, there's so many great pieces to this film, and as I've said, as we'll finish this episode up, you know, it is still completing that story from the other films. Now, that would take me too long to explain the sequence of events leading up to this, but that's why I do recommend you do go back and you watch some of these older films so that you understand a little bit more about who these characters are and really what the overall story arc is. For example, Ethan Hunt is on the run. If you don't know that, or if maybe you haven't seen the other films, they would explain to you in the other films why he is on the run. I'm not going to tell you because, again, it's a very long story. But could you go in and watch this movie without seeing any other films? Sure, yes. You will still enjoy it, but I can promise you will not have really a clue what's going on. So if anything, go and watch maybe like a Rumble video or a YouTube video about maybe just the breakthrough of some of these older films, just so you understand who these characters are. Alright, with all that said, again, if you get a chance, I highly recommend that you go and watch this Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1 from yours truly, Spot of Nerd. I would hugely put it up on the you must go and watch this ASAP, because next week, people, next fucking week is gonna be madness. Not just because everybody's on strike, but you've got the release of Oppenheimer and you've got the release of Barbie. Not only that, the creme de la creme, yours truly, Spot of Nerd, will be attending San Diego Comic-Con 2023. Now, we're going to do an episode, hopefully before Comic-Con, so we can go over a little bit more on that. But it's going to get buck wheezy on that bow whizzle, as they would say in the 90s. So get ready for some pretty epic stuff, some amazing content from yours truly. We are gonna review all those films as soon as we can see them. I'll be very honest, it might take me a few more days than the opening release to see the new films, Oppenheimer and Barbie, because that is literally when Comic-Con is. It's gonna be very tricky to do all of it at the same time, and I'm very old, so just bear with me on it, but I promise we will get to all of it. Until then, huge thank yous and great love and support for everybody that continues to watch and subscribe and listen on the podcast. If you would be ever so grateful, I would love if you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribes, follow us on the Rumble. I would really appreciate it more on there, because that's where I'm getting a little bit more traction, as they would say. I guess somebody would say, I will say it. But super duper appreciate that. Also follow us, the Spotify's, the Apple Podcasts. That's where I'm uploading the audio versions of said episodes. I figured, Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise, you gotta see this beautiful mug. It's beautiful. It's me. And all jokes aside, I am very excited for next week with Comic-Con. It's going to be an amazing 4 days. Regardless of all this bullshit strike, I personally believe Comic-Con is going to get back to its roots. We're just going to have a great time, and stay tuned for a lot of footage on that. Follow me on Instagram. It's the @spot_of_nerd. I will be posting probably a lot more pictures over the next week, specifically at Comic-Con. So that'll be kind of fun, so you can follow me there. All of that beside the point. Again, thank you all so much for watching. We will see you guys next time. Later, y'all. One thought, and I thought this would be perfect for the end credits sequence that I tend to do now. We're going to go more in depth on this, but I would love to get anybody's take on artificial intelligence, because it's very interesting that you could almost, how The Simpsons predicts everything? As in, like, the Simpsons have an episode that was like 5 years ago that predicts the future, and then the future becomes reality. It's interesting that a lot of movies now, a lot of television, etc., a lot of the news is focusing a lot more on artificial intelligence. And as a society, there's no doubt about it, we are getting very close to that point. So my curiosity is there a reason why? Is there a reason studios and films are doing that now? Television even? Again, we will talk about this a hell of a lot more in the future, but my suspicions are, I believe artificial intelligence is gonna do more harm than good. Now, we can go down many roads, many paths with that. Personally, I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think humanity right now is basically on board to handle such things. We can barely handle... You know what? We won't go down that road. if you watch me, if you listen, you know where I'm going with that. But the bottom line is, I very much am not exactly optimistic about artificial intelligence. And just watching these movies, we've seen artificial intelligence from the early days of Terminator to now in this new Mission Impossible film. It always ends badly. It ends badly for humans, not the artificial intelligence. So, something to think about. And tell me what you think. I'd like to know, because it's one of those that could just break open Pandora's box of conversation. Thank God we still have freedom of speech here, because, again, without it, you can't have ideas. Without ideas, you can't move forward. So, that's kind of my little 2 cents, my little 30-second spiel on it.